Welcome Super Brain to your bonus video, and in this one I'm going to teach you the keys, 8 keys, I call them the 8 C's for learning how to jumpstart your muscle memory. Muscle memory, this is like your motor memory, this is your body memory. I want you to think about, like, if I can learn any skill, if I can learn how to ride a unicycle, if I can learn how to crochet, if I can learn a martial arts or a specific dance like salsa, how would you go about doing that? In this really short video, I'm going to give you 8 quick tips, someplace for you to be able to get started that will accelerate your ability to be able to get this done in a faster way. Really fast track it, if you will. Now, there's no magic pill, but there is a magic process, right? I wish that there was a magic pill you could take and all of a sudden you have photographic memory and you're like Neo and you can get hooked up to the Matrix and all of a sudden I know Kung Fu. That would be amazing. When you find out what that is, then let me know, because I'll be the first online to be able to do that. Here's the first of your 8 C's to improving your muscle memory. Number 1 is competency. Competency. So this is where you're actually choosing the skill or ability, the competency that you're looking for, the new capability that you're looking for. So number 1, make sure it's specific, meaning what, and I'd like you to do this right now, is there a physical skill? In our quest, we talked a lot about cognitive skills and cognitive intelligence and ideas, but this is about getting into your body. So is there a physical skill you'd like to learn? Maybe it's to learn how to snowboard. Maybe it's to learn how to do some, like a kata in a martial arts. I want you to right now think about it or even meditate on it. Just write that down. If you've always wanted to learn something, even when you were a child, what would that be? And the great thing about this is it's never too late. It's never too late, so choose your competency. Number 2 quick tip, in no specific order, that's going to help you to be able to improve your muscle memory and activate more of your super brain for your body, if you will, is chunking. Now, what does it mean to chunk something? For me, when I hear the word chunking, it's about breaking things down into bite-sized lessons, breaking things down into bite-sized movements, if you will, exactly what we've done for the quest for you, right? We break it down systematically into chunks. And when I say to chunk this and break things down, it's basically inch by inch, it's a cinch, but yard by yard, it's too hard. So when you break things down, and what I'm going to ask you to do is break it down so you have this skill that you want to develop. Maybe it is to learn how to surf, or maybe it's to learn how to dance. And now what you're doing is you're chunking it down into steps. So it's not this big monster that keeps you from actually starting this thing that you've always wanted to do. When you do that also, one quick tip when you're chunking it is I would actually name those different chunks. Name those individual steps or movements, if you will, and make it something that's descriptive of it. It's kind of like that scene, like one of the most memorable scenes in Hitch with Will Smith and Kevin James, where he's saying, do you know how to dance? And he's like, oh, I know how to dance. He starts doing the dance, and he does the thing with the Q-tip, and then he throws it out and rolling the dough. That's where you're naming the individual movements, and so that's chunking. The third quick tip on how to improve your muscle memory is this thing called combining. The third C is combining. What does that mean? It's now that you have the individual chunks, how do you combine them? And what I really want to do when we're talking about combining and chunking is really focus on the Pareto's principle. Pareto's law is talking about the 80-20 rule. That's the 20% of that skill that's going to give you 80% of the rewards. Focus on the 20% that's going to give you 80% of the rewards. When we're talking about combining, you have to combine those individual steps in a very specific way, in a very specific sequence, because you want to do it in order. And one of the things that when I work with, let's say, athletes or dancers, for example, what they'll practice actually is they'll combine it going forward, and they'll also combine it doing it backwards also as well. Much like what we did in Quest, a lot of things we taught you, we did it forwards and backwards. The backwards is really important also as well, so that at any time, let's take dance or let's take a martial arts for instance, like you need to be able to pick up where you left off because maybe there was a mistake that was made, and you don't want to have to start all the way from the beginning in your mind. You want to be able to pick up and train yourself at any situation. So if you're in the 8th of the 10th step, you don't have to go back in your mind and start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Much like people do cognitively with the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They have to start all the way over if they're counting For example, they want to know what letter certain things are. They have to start all the way from the beginning as opposed to going right in the middle and go M, N, O, P, or backwards, right? Because you could do it backwards also as well. P, O, N, M, L, K, J, and so on, right? So you know it's forwards and backwards. So this is the area of combining. So consequences is the fourth quick tip. Just here's what you want to remember. There is no such thing as failure. There's only failure to learn. So you're always looking for the feedback because that's what it is. There's no failure, there's only feedback. And feedback is the breakfast of superheroes. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Always realize the result that you're getting. The fifth quick tip, if you will, to learn, to be able to really improve your muscle memory is this thing called character. And when I say character, I'm not talking about personal integrity. I'm talking about many times, for example, actors that I'm working with, when they want to get into a role, they literally get into character. They close their eyes, they use their imagination, imagine themselves being another person, and that helps them to be able to perform at the result. For example, remember those lines better. Or for in this case, what we're doing is imagine a character who's doing something that you want to be able to do, and imagine you are that person, and watch that person on television and have a role model like that, because you have something in your nervous system called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons. And this is actually how children are, right? When you're teaching children, they don't necessarily listen and do what you say, they do what you do. But have you ever been with a child and you're doing something and they start imitating you? That's mirror neurons. You learn best through imitation. So when we're talking about character, you could use your imagination and get into that character, and you could watch the person or an expert that is in the field of or has the ability that you want to be able to have, and watch them. And as you're watching them, can't you kind of feel it? I mean, let's say it's tennis. Can't you feel like if you practice a little bit and you can kind of feel what they're feeling when they're doing it? And if you ever, you do this, you're watching a movie and something's going on, someone's being chased, and you feel like you're moving along with them, or maybe you're watching a boxing match and this is happening and you're just like moving along because you have those mirror neurons that are being activated. So that's character. The sixth quick tip on how to be able to master or get into your muscle memory, what we call your motor memory, is consistency. Consistency. And that's why it was so important going through this quest to be able to do it every single day. It's not that if you miss one day, everything is ruined, but once you do it once, it gets really easy to miss it twice and a third time. Do you know what I mean? Once you miss something once, it becomes a habit. That's the thing. Excellence is not an act. Excellence is a habit. And it's what you do consistently that gives you the power. So what I want you to do is, as you have identified this new skill, this new physical skill that you want to learn, make it consistent. Because if you dabble in it, you're not going to get the results. So many people have an interest in something, they try something once or twice, and then what happens? They stop because they're not consistent. And you get the results. If you finished going through the 30 days on the quest, you could do some amazing things. You've changed your abilities because you were consistent. It's not one time. You don't go to the gym one time and like, oh, okay, I'm done, right? It's what you could do consistently that makes the difference. The seventh quick tip on how to be able to activate more of your muscle memory is to really commit. When you commit to something, you burn all the bridges. And when you burn your bridges, as the saying goes, it lights the way for where you want to be able to go. And here it's about really discipline. It's about making a real decision. Most people, they don't really make a decision. When you think about the word decision in Latin, it means to cut. Right, like incision, to cut. And where you're cutting from is you're cutting from any other possibility, then you're gonna do it. Like a true decision, like you're gonna commit to something and you're gonna do it until you get the result. And finally, the eighth quick tip on how to be able to access more of your body memory, your motor memory, your muscle memory, if you will, is this thing called coach. The fastest way to learn something is to be able to have a coach who could do these things with you, who could keep you consistent, who could challenge you. And when you challenge yourself, you get to be able to change even more. That could help you refine your commitment, your consistency, and so on. Because if somebody has, again, decades of experience and you could spend X amount of days with them, you could download decades of wisdom in just days. And that's what happened with this quest, right? one of the fastest ways, if you had to do that yourself, I mean, I've spent 25 years in the area of brain performance and memory training and speed reading training, and you get to benefit in just 30 days, what's almost taken me 3 decades to be able to learn. And you didn't have to spend the 25 years, you didn't have to spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars I did on my personal education to be able to learn these things. You got a coach, and it's the fastest way to be able to shortcut this process. Now that we did that together, let's take a few of these elements, because you don't have to do every single one of these 8 just to jumpstart. And certainly there's more, but in this bonus I want to give you just a handful that's digestible that you can apply right now. Let's take some of these 8 quick tips and apply it towards something. When we were doing our implementation trainings and our implementation days, we did a lot of physical activity. I talked to you about Super Brain Yoga, right? Massaging your left ear and your right ear and doing squats. We talked about juggling and such, and we talked about these crossovers, and some of them are simpler than others. Juggling is a little bit more difficult, but you could certainly apply this towards juggling. Juggling, according to the first quick tip, is your what? Competency. That's what you want to do. You have a goal. You want to be able to juggle 3 apples or 3 balls or 3 socks. You have your competency. You could also break it down. Remember when I started to teach that, I said, okay, don't try to juggle 3 balls right away. Just take one and just catch it. And you're catching it and you're just breaking it down. What we were doing is we were chunking it down. And we did a lot of those things because then we were like combining it. We said, okay, now let's do 2 balls. And we had 2 points here, and let's break that down. One goes up here, and when this goes up here, you throw the other one. So we were chunking it down into bite-sized pieces, and also doing the third thing, which is combining it together. So now that you have this down, and then you know how to be able to catch the ball, now we're combining it, and we're doing 1 back-to-back. Right? And we're doing 2 balls, and then you saw me demonstrate with 3 balls, right? And so you could apply that towards that. You should also know your consequences very well, because notice that if you overthrow the ball when you're juggling, then you have to reach out for it. In fact, it's not so much being better at catching it, it's better at tossing it. And so you start getting feedback, you start seeing consequences, which was one of the quick tips. And so what I recommend is actually tossing it right up to the top of your head. You toss it at the top of your head and you get really good at the throw, because the consequence of overthrowing is you're gonna miss that catch. And the next C was character, right? So when you're learning how to, for example, learning how to juggle, you could apply that towards character, meaning that if you started to watch YouTube videos and you have your mirror neurons, watch some of the jugglers and notice what they're doing and get a feel. Imagine yourself stepping into their body, and that empathy, which is very powerful. Imagine what you're feeling and you're activating your mirror neurons. That's something you do, is just watching it over and over again. Whether it's tennis, whether it's snowboarding, or whether it's dance, get a feel for that, and that would be your character. 2 of the other C's when it comes to juggling, we're talking about commitment and consistency. For me, that goes hand in hand. It's a commitment to being consistent, because you can't just practice juggling once and just have it for life. You need to practice it a little bit each day. So what it does is when you break it down to each day, like we did in bite-sized ways with the Quest, we were consistent every single day. 30 days to learn how to juggle, a little bit each day. I'd rather you do 30 days, a little bit each day for 30 days, rather than just spend 8 hours trying to learn it. And finally, the last thing is get a coach, somebody locally for you or somebody online that could actually walk you through this process, because they've been juggling for decades, and in a handful of days, they can help accelerate your process. Those are my 8 quick tips on how to apply it towards a physical activity like juggling. Now I want to show you something else. What we were doing is all these physical motions throughout our quest together, and I want to show you one more. And I want to do it together, and let's see if we can apply some of these C's in a very limited time to see if you can make some mark improvements just literally in minutes. Are you on board? Let's do it. So one of the things that I like to teach, remember, as your body moves, your brain grooves. Say it, as my body moves, my brain grooves. So imagine you're just pulling energy towards you like this, and I'm just going to move on my side here so you can see it from the side view, and I'm just pulling energy towards me like this. And now what I want you to imagine is bring one towards you, but the other one away from you. One towards you and the other one away from you. Do you see that? Forwards or this way. I want you to just try this and do this now. Kind of have fun with this. Now, what most people are doing is they're still doing this. They're still doing this. They think like they're doing it, but their muscle memory is used to doing this, and sometimes you have to unlearn the bad habits. So look what I'm doing. I'm creating 2 circles like this, but one's going clockwise, the other one's going counterclockwise. Or I'm going like this. And just feel that. Now, for most people, it's kind of like not gelling because they still want to go back to this because it's more comfortable. Kind of like eating with your hand or writing with your hand. If you switch hands, it gets a little bit more uncomfortable and weird. Now, let's break it down though. Let's use what we learned already. We have your competency and say maybe, okay, Jim, your first quick tip is get the competency. Yes, that is what I want, identify it. But after that, you're like, Jim, you want to chunk it. You want to break it down into bite-sized, easily digestible parts like you did in the quest. Then what I want you to do is this. Instead of doing circles, let's just break it down into a square. So you see that? It's just like one forward and one back. And what I want you to do is just follow what I'm doing here and just go straight up. Straight up. And now cross. And then down one level. And then cross. And then up one level, cross, down one level, cross, up one level, cross, down one level, cross. Notice that all we've done is just break it down into chunks, and then we just start combining these individual parts, right? I'm labeling it, like I said, when you chunk it, levels and stuff like that, in crossing. So it's up, cross, down, cross, up, cross, down, cross. Now, part of it is you want to feel it, you want to be consistent, you want to be able to practice this, but what I want you to do is as you're getting used to it a little bit, and I'm not going to take the time in this video, but you're going up, cross, down, cross, up, cross, down, cross, and then eventually just smooth out the corners, right? Smooth out the corners, and you feel it. So this would be an example on how to apply some of these 8 C's towards helping you to be able to master your muscle memory. So there you go, Super Brain. What I challenge you to be able to do is pick a competency you're looking to master. A physical movement, a physical sport, a certain dance, whatever it happens to be, a unicycle, that just, for some reason that's coming up. Maybe that's something I want to get involved in myself. Pick something over the next 30 days and apply as many of the 8 C's towards it. And take pictures and videos and make sure you post it on Facebook and Instagram and tag me in it because I want to celebrate with you and see all your amazing progress.